Ready?
Go.
Hi, everybody. Michelangelo Badio here with another installment of No Boundaries. We have a special guest for those who watch the show regularly. I can't even speak now. You know Adam Turetzky. He's going to be, there he is. And let's see a few people online. Hey, Denny, how are you? Nabrak, hello. But what Adam did was he wrote 3 really killer jam tracks. And I've been out of town. I was in LA, doing the show at the Michelangelo Badio Band. Adam was working on it, so I heard the tracks a couple days ago. They sound great. But I thought that Adam should kind of talk about himself a little bit, and we've known each other for a long time. So I'm going to shut up now and leave it to you. Just tell everybody about yourself.
Mike was my first guitar teacher when I was 14 years old, and that goes back a little bit. We won't mention how long ago. And I've kept in touch ever since, and I've been doing the video engineering behind the scenes, as the regular viewers would know. I've played guitar as a hobby for the last, a long time, and did this with Mike when I met him through connections I have with the Smashing Pumpkins. And we started doing this, and Mike's given me the opportunity to come on here and jam with him in front of all of you. Thank you very much, Mike. And he came up with the great idea, why don't you write some backing tracks that we can jam to? And I was like, that'll be easy. Sure, no problem. That was an understatement. It's not easy, but I did manage to come up with this stuff. And all the backing tracks you're hearing tonight are original compositions by me, recorded by me, produced by me in my home studio. And I'm available for you if you're interested in collaborating. I work for cheap.
Great. Anyway, yeah, Adam and I have known each other a long time. And, I used to teach at a music store in Highland Park. It's kind of the Beverly Hills of Illinois. It's a very, affluent area. And there's still the store that I taught at. It's called the Music Gallery. And that's where I taught Tom Morello. And Adam was one of my students. You were really young back then.
I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
My mom there's probably, maybe he's not watching, a man named Keith Marks, who was the production manager for years with Styx. He worked at this music store called Gand Music and Sound. And my mom wanted to go somewhere up near Libertyville where Tom Morello lives. And I was like, that's on the way to Gand Music and Sound. Can we go look at guitars? And so we went into that music store, and I got to play my favorite guitar, and he showed me how to play a Van Halen song, and my mom recognized that she wasn't hip to music, but she's like, wow, can you teach him how to do that? And Keith was like, I don't really take students, but there's this guy I know named Mike Badio, who, don't tell my boss, works at a competing store up the road in Highland Park, the Music Gallery. He might have some opening spots. And my days were Mondays at 3:30, and that was my first lesson with Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to enjoy teaching. And, back then, Adam and I have talked about this. Tablature paper really wasn't available back then. And, I know tab's been around for centuries, but it really didn't become an established way to write modern guitar music until the 80s. And so it was, during that, the LA shred and, the Yngwie Malmsteens and me and all that came up in the scene then, that where we started using. So, I mean, you can attest to this. Staff paper has 5 lines. I had to draw 6th line.
He flipped the guitar over like this, and he would draw the 6th line onto my staff notebook paper that he told me to bring to the first lesson and write out the tablature.
Yeah.
To numerous songs that I laughed thinking about it now. Some of them, if you watch a couple of back episodes, I go into the early days of the lesson book I have, and one of them is a bunch of Iron Maiden tunes from Number of the Beast. I'm like, I don't have that on cassette or anything. That was on a record album, and he literally had a turntable in the little practice room that we were at the Music Gallery, and he would drop the needle on the record, and Mike would write out he wrote out Number of the Beast for me, and he notated it perfectly, because that came out in guitar magazines later, and it was exactly the same, because he had it right. But
yeah, thanks. Well, I was fortunate back then. I had a lot of air training in the university and high school. So, but I was really on point with that. Now I do it kind of a lazy way. If I have to figure out a song, I'll go and find someone else's tab.
What-
And then I can hear right away if it's 100% on 80%, 90% or way off. And then I add my own things. Well, Adam composed 3 tracks. And he had a two-part song form, which I thought was great. And then I wanted to jam it a little longer, so we doubled some of these tracks. And like I was saying, Adam, do both parts. And so he's going to start this off, and let's just go for it. Yeah. What do we call this one?
I should give these names to my little children here, but they're just called New Jam 1, New Jam 2, New Jam 3. So we're going to do, this is New Jam 2. Let's do it.
That's it. Yeah, the ending, I wasn't quite sure about that one. But anyway, that was really fun.
Thank you.
Great tune to jam on. Thanks, Adam. Now, yeah, I've been looking at some of the comments. Thank you, everybody. You know, it's fun because, you know, it's one thing to work out a solo. And, you know, I've done that many times in my life. Even the solo to Freight Train from Nitro was really 90% worked out in my head, or, you know, the old Holland Band Gotta Run or No Boundaries. I'm in the key, I'm in concert pitch right now. So, but the point is that, you know, when you do something like this, it's improv. And that's what makes it fun. You know, there was a phrase in music when I went to school, it was called indeterminate music, where there was actually a composer that wanted to write jams for a symphony orchestra. I want to, you know, hear how that one worked out, but it really means made up. And so somebody wrote Beatty 014, that's quite a name. Do I remember any C4 guitar solos? Yeah, I mean, because C4 were songs from the old Holland days. Okay, so anyway, Adam, what do we have next?
I don't know. What is the next jam?
Okay, well, let me tell you
Okay,
what
I
I
know what that
did.
is.
I doubled it.
You doubled it again.
Yes, so I wanted these jams to be long. I mean, why shred for 30 seconds when you can shred for a minute? And so why add enough notes? It's like what in Amadeus, too many notes.
Too many notes. If you saw my promos, I put that Amadeus little promo in his Mike's Instagram, my Instagram, and yes, too many notes. Well, how many do they? Just as many as we require.
Yes. I think there's, you know, it's like Steve Morse even wrote a song, I think, called Too Many Notes.
Did he? Oh,
Yeah.
Steve Morse is great.
Yeah, I like Steve Morse a lot. Nice guy, too. And so anyway, let us do the next
I'm going to
jam.
do it again and play too many notes for you.
Yes. Then you start first.
Sure. That's
Yeah,
what's
the
up.
endings, they end abruptly. Why? So we go. Anyway, that's fun. These songs we're in concert pitch. It's cool because I like a lot of tunings on guitar. So I use drop D. I tune down sometimes to E flat, sometimes to D. Concert, but it's really fun playing. Adam's a great player, and wrote great tracks. It's really rocking. It's fun to play, and I consider the shred zone anything after. Sorry, I'm looking all over the place. Comments here, but when I think about the shred zone, I think of 16th notes starting at around the minimum is 185 to 200, 210, 220, and then I move up from there. I saw a lot of people asking some questions like the angle of the pick better. Let me say one thing about pick angle. There's a word in music that I studied when I studied, believe it or not, pipe organs called chiff. And what chiff is the sound of air moving through the pipe. And you have various degrees of a tone. For example, you have the attack, you have the sustain, then you have the release, and then you have the decay of that release. Chiff, I really truly think you should have an angle on your pick. Now, people say sometimes that it's easier and it glides better, and that is a good reason, but there's also another reason. It's just the tone. If you play parallel to the strings, I think you're going to have a person will have a harder time picking fast and getting the right sound. Having a pick on an angle, whether it's downward towards the headstock or upward, is a good way. And what I think that the word that I would use is chiff. You want that percussive attack like you would get if you hit a pipe organ. Somebody else made a comment. I saw that I keep my arm on the guitar. I have actually not changed my picking technique since the original Starlix video in Speak Hills. I do it the same. What you're seeing is more. When I played in the old days, I didn't have my arm like this. It was always resting on the guitar. And then I used a free-floating system where I don't use a ton of overdrive, so I didn't have a lot of feedback from the overdriven sound, but really my picking technique hasn't changed at all. And so I know somebody keeps asking me about Yngwie Malmsteen. I like Yngwie, okay? Neoclassical's great. All right, anyway, is there anything
I can
about
attest to Mike's picking technique is mine because he changed the entire thing for me. I was using Fender medium picks when I first started taking lessons and mostly trying to dribble the pick on the string to go fast. And he gave me my first Jazz 3. It was his. And he's like, I think you would get a better sound and ability to play fast using this sharp, stiffer pick. And told me that you need to anchor the palm of your hand, which we did palm muting because one of the first songs I had him at the time, I was super into this guy. I think you'll recognize. So that was palm muting, and he said you could get a much better sound with this, and that led to palm muting picking with, I never even analyzed it. This was just something that happened naturally, and I didn't want to think about it till I started seeing some videos recently about which angle, how do you change going up and down. It was just something I can do is... And so an exercise that you can do is one, I think one that he gave me is... And then you go backwards. and it's called threes. So you go and take that up, skipping a string each time, and eventually you can work that up to speed.
Yes. And, one of the things that gypsy jazz is a pretty popular genre in guitar playing. And I like to go with my, believe it or not, my music attorney, Glenn Rice, was one of my students at the music gallery too. It's funny how, not funny, but it's a good thing that, I've kept in contact with only a few people. Adam, Glenn, there's really not many others, a couple others over the years, but a lot of my students went on to do really, really well in life. And I'm not saying that, it was because of me, but, I'm glad to be a part of it. I mean, some of my students became doctors, attorneys, Adam's an IT person. And so, but one of the other things that I can say about these pointy jazz 3 picks, getting back to gypsy jazz, is if you look at a gypsy jazz pick, and it's really popular now, it's basically a jazz 3 but bigger. And so but it still has the one common denominator, that's the pointy part of it. Like Adam said with Fender picks, I have nothing against Fender picks. I use like that, the Sawtooth Company ChromaCast is massive. And we make every kind of pick known to man, even including a shred guitar signature pick that I like to play. And so, but those rounded picks, especially thin and medium, are good for strumming. If you want to sound like the Eagles and play, peaceful, easy, freeling, well, those are great. But if you want to shred, a pointier guitar pick, it leaves, first of all, less room for any kind of mistakes. You either hit it or it either is or it is not. And the other thing too, even with the gypsy jazz picks, I call this a teardrop shape. It's a bigger shaped pick. It's actually physically bigger, but it still has the same characteristics of this jazz 3. And I saw a comment here that is very true. It says that some picks have more mid-range, and that is true. A jazz 3 pick, or one in the style of, now see, Turetzky or Delrin, which is the real name for it, it's kind of like tissues and Kleenex, but Delrin is the real name for that what Dunlap calls Turetzky. They have a little bit brighter sound. So if you use like a normal plastic jazz 3, it's a little rounder in the sound, and it's got a little more mid-range. Picks definitely have a tonal difference. I noticed too, like when I was in Nitro and I'm playing, and even in Manowar, when you're playing really fast tempos and a lot of rhythm guitar, I actually don't use the jazz style picks. I use a bigger guitar pick, but it's still pointy. And I like the bigger picks so because I'm playing so much rhythm. And the Jazz 3 XL, that's more like a gypsy jazz style pick. Were you going to add something?
Absolutely, the pick has an effect on the tone, which I'm currently using the red Jazz 3s, and I'm compromising the tone for the sole reason that I have a lot of dark carpeting, and the black ones sound better, but if you drop it, you'll never find it again, so the red ones stick out, especially when you're playing in bars that usually have black floors, and you can always find your red pick if it falls down. But there is definitely a difference between the soft nylon and the harder nylon picks, and the other types of picks, the thin Fender mediums, the Delrin. I was going to say Eddie Van Halen played with a Fender medium, and that was a whole different technique than what you see Mike and I doing here. He had a whole very unique style. I mean, he even held the pick with his thumb and his middle finger and would wiggle his wrist to get that eruption trill sound. It was a very unique style, and if you watch videos of him doing it, he plays very differently, and you won't do this. You're not going to do that with a Fender medium. You have to do this. But that doesn't mean you can't at some point figure out how to do something that sounds similar to that using that pick. But if you want to play this style, you're going to have to use something a little stiffer and more to the point. I remember somebody saying it's like using a tool to write your name. You're trying to scratch your name into the strings.
Yeah, And, I'm sorry, I'm reading some of the comments too. And, a lot of great ones. Thank you. We want to do one more track here that Adam wrote. And I love it because, I've done the 10 jam tracks before through Total Accuracy. What is the company called now? Lick Library. And it was really fun doing it. We did two-part song forms, and what Adam did too is he put together some really cool tracks, and it's his style, which that's what I like. I like playing other people's.
I write boogie rock. Sorry, it's all 120. That lick that you heard, I think the last song I've had that lick for 30 years. It started out with.
Yeah. Oh, I saw somebody mentioning Troy Grady. Yes, I was on Troy's show. Yes, he's analyzed my picking technique to the microscopic level. He was even here at the studio some years ago. So it's, I really like Troy a lot. He's a great player. He loved Freight Train and Nitro, and so that's how the whole thing started. But anyway, let's play one more song here. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that came out. We just played the Viper Room, the Michelangelo Badio band, and we sold it out like to the max. This was the most crowded it's even ever been, and we sold it out before. But what happens is that there's usually 4 or 5 bands a night, and then we were doing a co-headliner this time with Vinny Appice's Sabbath Nights, and Vinny is not only just one of the greatest drummers ever in a signature style, but he has so many big hit songs with Black Sabbath and Dio. I mean, just millions and millions of albums sold with him playing drums. And he's also one of the coolest guys on planet Earth. I mean, he's just great. So between his band and mine, I mean, it was beyond sold out. You couldn't move in the Viper Room, and I really appreciate it. Also, I released a brand new double guitar video, and it's the new solo, and we do part of the Trooper. People refer to it as the new Trooper double guitar solo, but it's got combined views right now. It's only been out 2 weeks. When I say combined, we did things on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're approaching close to 800,000. So we're going to hit the million mark pretty soon. It keeps moving up and up and up. And I want to thank everybody. And I love playing. What I do now is so different from what I did a few years ago when I was doing workshops and solo shows. I played the backing tracks, and I loved it because it was always the same. Obviously there were no leads pre-programmed. That would be insane. People would have figured that one out by now since I've been doing it for over 20-something years. But the backing tracks are really full. I could always count on them being on time. But in the Michelangelo Badio band, there's no click track, no backing tracks. When I play the double, or even the song No Boundaries, it's guitar, bass, drums. And then in Manowar, it's the same. We don't use backing tracks. We use a click track. Why do you need a click track? To time the pyro, to time the bombs, to time the lighting. And so you need it. And we know that we're going to play to the exact tempos of the albums and the tempo that Joey and Eric established. So again, it's real guitar, and that's what I do. In the studio, it's real. And I've done this my whole career. An instructional video in the old days was real. You couldn't fake it. And that's what I love more than ever about what I'm doing now. It's more freeform, like just what Adam and I are doing. It's just jamming. We've never jammed to these songs together in our life until today.
No pressure. Let's go in front of the whole world and
yes. Yeah, no pressure.
play solos for the first time on songs you recorded last night.
Yes. Are you ready to do
ready.
this? Okay, this is the last song.
I think this is a lick that I had. This is the last one, which was... I'm like, what am I ever going to do with that? I've had that lick for 30 years. And I'm like, this isn't a song, but where do we go with it? And I used to go... And you know where it's going to go? The Mike Badio live stream. So
That's
here
right.
we go.
Yeah, I didn't double that one. Anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you. Sawtooth has exploded. We're doing great. There are a lot of young bands that are coming to us now that want to endorse the company. We have a lot of established artists that are coming to us, and there's a real simple reason for it. We're better at manufacturing guitars with the best parts than pretty much every other company. And, it's one thing to put out a lower priced model, but it's another one to put out something that has the best quality parts. And that's what we do. And we don't really follow the trend, and we don't really care what other companies are doing. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just, even when I was with my former company, people would ask me about other brands of guitars. Yeah, I have a huge guitar collection, but a lot of them are vintage, and a lot of them are my signature models. And I'm not really that focused on what other companies do. I'm focused on what I do. And it goes back to my philosophy of I don't really aspire to be the best Randy Rhoads or the best Jimi Hendrix. I just wanted to be the best MAB, Michelangelo Badio, that I could be. And the same thing with the guitars. But whether it's guitars, drums alone with Sawtooth, we do the backline at the Whiskey A Go-Go. We do the backline at the Viper Room. Gus G's band, Firewind, that drummer endorses Sawtooth. He's using the kit all over the world. Bruce Dickinson's band, Dave Moreno, who played in Puddle of Mud for many years, he's in Bruce Dickinson. He's using Sawtooth. The list goes on. And especially when you have house kits in places like the Whiskey and the Viper Room, where there's 5 bands a night beating the heck out of these drums, they have really held up. And that's because they're that good. We just know how to manufacture. We know about instruments. I alone have over probably 25 different signature models. And for the first time ever, even my double guitar, we couldn't keep them in stock. We had a limited run of 50. We probably had 1,000 people ask about it. And even the Do, who I actually knew nothing about, but he's a huge internet personality. I am not the Do, but he bought one of my double guitars. I don't even really know his real name, but he was one of the 50 that bought it. But anyway, I just want to thank Adam. He was great. He's a testament. Yeah, and just putting the jam tracks together. We'll be back next week for another installment of No Boundaries. Adam Turetzky on guitar, MAB on guitar. We will see you next week.
Thank you. And link in the descriptions. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. This is the awkward part. I have to go stop the video, so we're going to sit here for a second.
So Joey's going to talk. Listen, I've been shredding the whole evening, but Adam did a great job. Robert's still angry. He still wants to shred.